Yeah, I'm gonna have to think about this real quick, but I was just making a little bit of humor about the satellite. But anyway, yeah, I was thinking about the refrigerator that I have is from Aaron's, okay, and I've been thinking quite a bit about as American as hot dogs and apple pie, and the thing about Jack in the Box, and so that's 2 tacos for 99 cents, and the thing about the hot dog and the egg roll, and the deal about the apple pie as compared to the 2 tacos for 99 cents. But my real focus right now is thinking about the actual. I was thinking I very rarely usually get sticks of butter, and truthfully, until here recently, in the last really probably the last 2 maybe 3 years, I hadn't really paid attention to it really, even more so in the last 2 years. But it's been here 2023. But I was thinking about quite a bit about the things that had led to the Austin Powers Blue Bonnet Imperial Eagle, and that refrigerator that I have. It's kind of like the way everything has been ultimately getting to like a supplemental security income and benefits originating from that introduced by the Social Security Administration, okay, and getting into the SNAP food benefits and the Lone Star card, and what I've been talking about, a fixture in real estate, not limited to the commercial venue of living quarters, a fixture in commercial venue of living quarters, and what a fixture is in real estate as compared to defining what a fixture is and what type of fixture and what type, if it's going to be a venue, or the truth about maybe a degree level that normally represents maybe the non-degree of neighborhoods as compared to the degree of, like, even degrees that do not participate in the circuit, or something about it, or really might not grasp something about it anyway. But yeah, it's kind of like, I've really been thinking about the thought about the Austin Powers Blue Bonnet Imperial Eagle and the refrigerator, because it's like William Perry, the summer to like a Chicago Bears, okay, and like I'd mentioned before, real quick, in Manville, Texas, there's a used to be anyway. I'm not sure if it's still there. I think there was a period. I don't know if it's like still there really at all. It's been that long. I mean, it's like real not far from here at all. Probably within maybe 3 miles. Maybe I wouldn't doubt it. All that 3-point power square stuff. I mean, for real. I had never even calibrated the distance really from this, but by now, considering how much pi r squared and exponential quotients, excuse me, involving like Alpha American. In any case, so like William Perry, okay, Refrigerator Perry, okay, 72, and my memory, um, of being quite a bit. Houston always used to go to, almost having quite a bit, based on everything I've heard, okay. Me actually being there when they were there was like maybe twice, and um, maybe not the same weekend, but yeah, I've been there during that period, um, as far as that goes. But I think that was still, when Dan Pastorini was like a quarterback, and the thing about the Kenny Burrow and Billy White Shoes Johnson, and the thing about the love you Billy, love you Billy, that's true. Yeah, love you Billy, that I do. It's always be true, and all that stuff. Anyway, so like I was thinking about that because of it's not far from here, and like County Road 100 goes right into it at an adjacent. Normally, adjacent presents the issue what would maybe normally be presented normally as a 90-degree right angle, but adjacent being the variable, of not necessarily always a perfect 90-degree right angle, or a T representing the word adjacent, normally involving transportation and geographics and maps that way. Not always a perfect 90-degree right angle is what that's all about. But anyway, yeah, so but in case, yeah, so it's like a 100 deal about the almost having campground. Anyway, so like getting back on that, but there was a period once again that I believe, if I'm not mistaken, William Perry, during a trade I think was on placed on Houston Oilers temporarily, and I think he just stood on his sidelines in the Houston Oilers for like about a 6 week period. I think it was about 6 weeks, and all this stuff about six. But anyway, years later, okay, this is like the year 2023, and all that based upon the memory minus de facto, and all the years I've really spent studying alphanumeric linguistics, practical application of principle, integration, compatibility. I mean, really, with many things about just a lot about degree levels of like terminology. Okay, but anyway, so like it's gotten to really what I'm talking about right now, and everything that's been involved with like SSI and supplemental security income, SNAP food benefits, Lone Star card, forbearance of like student loans, what was then, and realizing what the deal is, maybe beyond any perception of the norm of like a guaranteed student loan, and maybe in a whole different perspective of like what do you mean guaranteed, that a grant would normally cover the entire amount. I mean, if it's really ultimately getting to the fact that if it's not a guaranteed student loan, well, what is that supposed to mean? If it's guaranteed, does it mean that if it's guaranteed as a student loan, that potentially a grant would totally, completely cover the entire amount and not be a loan or any accusation, or is it really the thought of maybe attaching only what the categorization of money is to participation in education as compared to maybe what a foreign student might represent? Likewise, in addition to the thing about having, international law, like of having fair use of intellectual property, even representative like a motion picture, although it might be English or a translation, that with a student loan being like a foreign student, likewise with student loans, if it's a Texas guaranteed student loan that way, and it only means that attaching or identifying um, that in that way, or who's, where, and what is really involved at what level or any degree on any educational facility or college, normally a 2 year academic of community colleges or junior college, or a major university that way, or if it even represents sometimes in my mind, me seeing, you know to me it's almost like a sometimes when corporate law, corporate ventures and mergers, many people might not know of it. I've seen it, and it's very rare that it's even given as information, like corporate ventures and mergers representing family law, even when family law, they themselves might not even really even be able to prove that, even if their own participating in what they may think is family law is really not family law at all. It's just the idea, thinking that practicing family law is only just like the thought of maybe a relationship that's not anything other than, some idea of like a religious thing, when in fact family law is practiced in degree levels anyway. But I mean, in any case, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, convincing me that family law is any reality um, isn't really going to very easily happen. I mean, at all, unless it's the idea of like a sequencing characterization in sets of uh, like binary numbers, like sequencing characterization in sets of four, a binary representing two. And that's like programming. It's automatically, the deal of like binary numbers, and in a way of like what compatibility really represents between a zero and a one, of like male, female, and all that stuff. Even binary numbers that way. Even my thought of like sound representing like Morse code, a little bit of humor about that, and a bug on a salad. But anyway, so like back to the refrigerator Perry, okay, William Perry, and a lot of bit of, and here recently, quite a bit about the heartbeat of America, and some idea of like an experience going through obviously a networking circuit of like hospitals, okay. In any case, so ultimately got to information in my mind, about the refrigerator Perry thing, and how I was thinking about, you know, um, the thought of a pericardium, and ultimately, with everything that was like really happening, one of my first thoughts then I was, William Perry, and then it's kind of almost like the I don't know if I should just start throwing like names into it, but at the time, the way everything was like really what's going on as far as available information on television, or certain factors. But anyway, it's kind of like a concert in Australia, in the word prismatic that way. In any case, yeah. So I mean, my thought about the pericardium or the heartbeat of America, and me being a drummer. I mean, in any case, so like that was something while I was going through there's that one particular thing about the word prismatic. Yeah. So in any case, so like getting back to the refrigerator, it's kind of like the errors in Mr. T thing. It's kind of like it's all combined with almost like getting isometric beyond a method of banking. Beyond the bank itself, of maybe internet protocol of like a local area network. Okay, and it's getting to the ocean, and the delta and the misappropriation of Mississippi River and biggest mouth, the Mississippi River and all that equator stuff. Ultimately, getting to what the equator is to an ocean, or ocean pronunciation being the um, Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Normally in construction, building high rise and huge. Normally more than 10 floors of like commercial. I mean, or the hotel thing. Truthfully, so and that's normally a demanded requirement. Normally in the U.S. Department of Labor, I mean, if it's ultimately getting to what a union is, to a degree or non-degree issue, or what on the job is as compared to a degree level, um, still academic in its own way, based upon whether if it's just considered tech math based upon an apprenticeship, whether it's degree level or not of academic and curriculum anyway. I mean, if it's anything other than on-site like tech math based upon the description, I mean, and only certain factors being used of academics, maybe at a degree level, only at an apprenticeship level as tech math, not the whole entire deal about, the categorization normally identified in degrees, like on major universities anyway, normally picked in what's really applicable to like a certain type of apprenticeship, would probably more so be identified as tech math than the actual curriculum academics of like degree plans of major universities anyway, but still academic of major universities anyway, and junior colleges, yet designed for like a unionized type of apprenticeship. Probably more so identified as tech math, maybe even at other levels of like academics on campus as compared to the apprenticeship, but really represents really the same practical application of principle that way of tech math. Anyway, yeah. So anyway, like I was thinking about that refrigerator Perry um, deal about number 72 and the alphanumeric categorization of money and Brown, and the thing about the international financial management and commonwealth and globalization being like words ultimately getting to like sanitation, or some high oil silver deal, be on the toilet and quite a bit. But anyway, like really back to what I was like really wanting to say real quick. It's already going on 13 minutes and like 10 seconds right now. And is the Austin Powers Blue Bonnet and Paralegal. Okay, it's like I hadn't even counted, but as like what I'm looking at is like 4 sticks each, and each of the Blue Bonnet, and I'm thinking it's the same with the Imperial. I'm just now been buying the 6 of Blue Bonnet and Imperial Legal just for my thing, and now it's just like I wasn't even for sure if it was like 4 or 5, but I'm really thinking it's going to be like 4 or 5 anyway, based upon a computation of just knowing how very much alphanumerics and linguistic is with what I'm referring to right now, and seemingly so about the 94 thing of 56 is 10 and annotated adoption, abortion, all the way through the spelling of Roe, ROWE, being 61 Miracle News as compared to ROE and that B Wade thing. My name is Wade, okay? And the thing with it is that really, if it's ultimately getting to the amphibious thing of the alphanumerics of 213, and my name Wade Sterling Pretty, PRIDDY, it's like a math thing, okay? Pretty sexy thing, okay? In any case, like 3 years of like quite a bit going on. It's kind of like, man, you got to be kidding me. It's almost like why Paul changed his name to Saul almost, or whatever the deal is. I kind of actually started for really seriously for the first time, and ultimately it got to like, I mean, maybe a minimum less than 100 different type of names, just looking alphanumerically, and ultimately, through a process of elimination, it ultimately got to the what seemed to be like the only and the smartest and the best decision about, even before I was realizing the amphibious connectivity, um, and saying like the rapture and the second coming of Christ as compared to the ascending into the sky, the transfiguration at Mount Olives and all that stuff. I mean, it just like happened before I realized the connectivity about Aryan sky and all that in that way. um, very much about just reasoning and not seeing or realizing connectivity with like actually just like hey now right. So anyway, so like that was something about the amphibious thing. I see of J. Edgar Hoover. Likewise, back to the Samsung refrigerator. I'm not sure of the actual name. I'll actually really have to actually look at to see if it's beyond maybe a make of like Samsung and actually identify with like a model name. I haven't even looked. It's just the one that when I went there and I was looking at it, it's just like the one I wanted. I mean, like seriously, anyway, without even anything or even realizing that Samsung's 94. Anyway, it's kind of like it got to the French store and um, the Abraham Lincoln Night Vision, which is actually the color of the refrigerator. I decided to actually get maybe I'm not sure if it's considered a brush polished charcoal dark, but anyway, it's like now it's like the Abraham Lincoln deal about the 9 degree of the rectangle. Likewise, pi squared of the French door and the actual cubic feet of 28.2. And studying in the Roosevelt New Deal Act being 88, or California, or New Deal being 64, or ACTP : and America and Israel, and the Israeli being 73, Harris, Egypt, and Israeli flag itself, and some very many things. But anyway, yeah. So like a Samsung being 94 that way, and my thing about studying quite a bit about Roe v. Wade, and realizing the pronunciation and seeing it as ROWE and ROE v. Wade, the difference between the principle of pronunciation and alphanumerics, or it's like hey, you got it all wrong. You've been like watching too much television, right? And that adoption abortion of 94 are annotated that way, and what that is like really in a law library as compared to legal media and deposition like of television being alphanumerics 130, or a telepathic eagle, telepathic map, and telepathic Bible, telepathic baby, and all that stuff. And the 30 stuff, and Advantage Love 30 thing about in my mind, how I see taxation, annuity, and electronic being 104. And real geographically, real close here. And I haven't actually calibrated, I think it's pretty close to maybe a little more than a half a mile. It might be even the 0.58 thing about the alphanumeric value of that symbolic representation. Yeah, for real. On the back side with the three, obviously mandatory minimal requirements of simple addition and computation, equaling 58 between a C and a PTIS, that symbolic as a minimum, yeah. And then there's like the, field scope and range thing about the accuracy. And the only reason why I've waited really truthfully about the computation on the left side is really after, a Texas Instrument calculator of calculus, and the limit being calculus being 92, and Pentagon and drummer. I'm a drummer, okay. I sing and all that good stuff too, yeah. I'm on my youtube.com channel, youtube.com at WadeASV Pretty PRIDDY, okay, and WadeASV Pretty PRIDDY 192, okay. I've been putting that / 192. I'm sure everyone will figure that much out about the two. Anyway, so anyway, I was thinking about the history of television that way, of like a William Perry, refrigerator Perry, and Mr. T it advertises for like errands, okay, and everything about just the really ridiculously, not really ridiculously, but sometimes it really is really funny. Sometimes it being funny is almost like you got to be kidding me. I mean, it's almost like perception of like there's a place and time, but is it really the right time? And really, that's a thoroughly disgusting, really not funny thought. That thinking that what do you mean? I mean, what's the deal about laughing anyway? It's not supposed to be a problem. Is what the deal is, and yeah, truthfully so. In any case, yeah. So in any case, so like a Samsung is 94, okay. And the French doors, my thing about the Abraham Lincoln and the hood ornament of the Lincoln Continental. Okay, and the 90 degree of like that being something about the wide world of sports, likewise, engraving like on huge high rise buildings or huge commercial venues, even, thought of commercial venues, hotels, and certain factors that seem to be pretty much something that is, in my mind, involved with like a Stargate program, okay? And the memory minus the facto seems to be like the thing beyond what would be the perception of why a U.S. patent is not a copyright, why Bitcoin is not cryptocurrency, why the Fifth Amendment is not a nonprofit organization, and the list considerably goes on and on about that. What is normally the perception of like always together, and that the automatic perception not really being involved with it. I mean, even being involved with it might give maybe a false pretense of not really knowing why a U.S. patent is not a copyright. Yet, copyrights, um, patents, copyrights, and trademarks are always the three that are put together. And many people's perception might think that it's automatically that it's all about each other, when in fact it doesn't necessarily have to be that. But normally in categorization, it is normally those three, and maybe a misperception, maybe based on completely lack of experience about that fact. Um, yeah, and many others like that is the automatic perception based upon the categorization that are normally automatically involving each other, yet not really. It gives the impression of that, but it's really not that at all. And given the impression that way and led to believe that way is really like allowed, okay? And people can believe that. It's amazingly true. When knowing or not knowing seems to be the only issue of like, is it ever going to get to like, who's really going to believe who when it gets to that point, right? Who's been misled or made a fool of, or not at all, and not supposed to be. It's amazingly true, isn't it? In any case, yeah. So like the Samsung being like 94, okay, and the cubic feet being 28.2. Really, it's really 28.5. The 56 is 10. It seems to me like really through like years of studying alphanumerics before even applying the linguistics. The study of language. Once again, many people might think that just like studying English, even at a major university and getting degreed, and not know anything about alphanumerics, linguistics, even at a major university. It's like a whole new entire situation when it's combined with like, it's like completely a whole different perception and a whole much more in depth in what the deal is. But anyway, like through years of like process of elimination, it had ultimately got to, and it repeatedly kept popping up when I realized that it seemed to be like a mandatory requirement when realizing that M is N is M, and 13 is 14, 14 is 13, being the thing about 55 and heaven and sky. And you know what that is, to like coming, sent to the earth from heaven on a lightning bolt, and the 55 thing about it, okay? And right now, this is as far as I'll go with it. Yet of heaven, but thing about the disobedience that like to cast to the earth on a lightning bolt thing, right? Amazingly true, yeah. So in any case, yeah, yet of heaven, yeah, yeah, all right. So anyway, amazingly, in any case, yeah. So like the thing about it is that the 56 is 10. The cubic foot of the Samsung refrigerator that I'm looking at that I have, Mr. T, okay, the A-Team guy. Um, anyway, I'm not going to get off on pitiful guy, pitiful. I'm not going to get in all that. Anyway, so like that guy, the A-Team guy as well, yeah. A-Team being like many factors in my mind. I've actually seen it and thought of alphanumerics of like 40 that way, or the blue thing, or the A-Team being something about the 39 as well, or even the ERP, exclusionary rule provision. Normally associated with exclusionary rule provision is the executive powers, governmental amnesties, and sovereign immunities. Automatically like alphanumerics of a plenipotentiary being 200, or the bicentennial quarter, 200-year celebration, and transportation, Lord Jesus Christ, and the pro-life thing that really at the time I thought of, but didn't even really connect the pro-Jesus Christ thing. And it's like, you got to be kidding me. All about, now what I say is like, you got to be kidding me. A fixture in a commercial venue, like a commercial in real estate, being the same in the wallet thing about the EBT card that was not really identified at the time. It's only, I don't know how many years it's been now, identifying like what it was then, food stamps, into the Lone Star card and the SNAP food benefits, and like even the EBT card like was made available, and why it's still not now. But anyway, it may have been the thought of like even if it was like available as a direct source. Would it really have been the same thing at the time. But even as far as I can see now, it seems to be like the deal about the fixture in real estate in the way of like a grocery store, a commercial venue of living quarters, defined really as, a place of like building and venue as compared to like a neighborhood. And, that's why I'm so very much about, hey, man, at least, right now it's kind of like, with all the ocean and the absentee thing, or what, Mr. T is to like the thought of like even playing golf or the absentee or, something like really could be humorous, but really not at the same time. Some surface to error thing about anatomy and some what compatibility is like, hey, it's good to see you beyond a fashion statement, right? So, in any case, yeah, so like getting right on into it, I mean, whatever, at the same time, hey, there's humor and there's humor, and then when it's not, then it's not, okay? In any case, the thing about it is that, the absentee thing about Mr. T, or, advertising for errands is like, the thing about that, it's not that I'm saying it's absentee, based upon, what I'm talking about, because, going through what obviously is something I really haven't experienced, but really knowing that, yeah, hey, that's like happening or happened, and whatever the deal is that ultimately getting to repeated like you know 911 calls and admitting diagnosis is congestive heart failure, and I wasn't going for it because there was just too much going on that you know I didn't have to agree with like really not one thing about it, although it became mandatory need to call, and it's like really getting really seriously not funny. Yet see what that thing about thing, but ultimately it got to like information that led to the ablation and ultimately to a pericardium, and me having to do my own like thinking about the similarities of congestion, ultimately leading to factors involving procedures of the ablation and the pronunciation of oblation and ablation very much alike, yet presenting like something about the act of God and everyone in Pearland as one of the definitions for the pronunciation of ablation, and it gives the same perception of pronunciation as the procedure for like a controlling and getting arrhythmia and atrial fibrillation, to where that's not the issue with a procedure called ablation. But yet the heartbeat of America, today Chevrolet and all this stuff is like seriously stuff that really I've been like really kind of like thinking about. And the thing about it is that the refrigerator, I mean, it's just like there, and it's like it was like automatically the one that I wanted anyway. I mean, without any thinking about it, other than just like knowing, hey, that's exactly what I want anyway. Before I even even thought about Samsung as like being 94, or really truthfully anything other than it was like the biggest one available in that particular design that I wanted anyway. So that's the one I got, and 28.2 cubic feet. What the color money is to Paul Newman and the Q, or the cubic foot, is similarly now the deal about the province and certain factors, even evolving the back pastel green beyond the province of world history, of like executive administrative, of like current live on air, and the thing about Six Flags and the difference between JD and JD Powers. Um, like J10 and D4 and a difference of 6. And quite a bit about the 6 is representing like, presidential terms in office, or 6 presidential terms in office as compared to maybe just like a difference of 6 of just being, Six Flags, or, what that is to um, NATO, or, North American Free Trade Act, or uh, where the P is in legal media of like um, NATO. I've seen it and heard it more so of NATO, like North Atlantic Treaties Organization. Um, and I've seen it like uh, NATO with a P, TO. It's almost like they getting into the protractor and like so very much, but I'm gonna leave it at that much about the 180-degree telepathic answer. But I've seen it, okay, on television and other factors that would give the North Atlantic Peace Treaties Organization, and something between the P and F and like NAFTA, North American Free Trade Act, um, and the NATO with the P, and the difference between an F and a P, and something that would look like a C of symmetrical asymmetrical, almost like I think it's a Under Armour and the Hurley symbolic representation of Under Armour, and presents that intersecting axis of, what seems to be right now the deal between North American Free Trade Act and what I've seen visually of like NATO being with a P and being the NAPTO, like a 3-point deal of even a triangle, or pi r square being 3-point of a tractor, and 180-degree of a protractor, and like drafting and design with geometrics and, all that stuff about it, okay? And I've seen it as a NAPTO. Haven't heard it pronounced that way, but it's silent in proper English grammatical composition whenever it needs to be or wants to be, and just knowing that is a practical application of principle as compared to NAFTA, which is the only difference between the F and the P anyway, North American Free Trade Act, as compared to NATO with the P, would be just the difference between the F and the P anyway, and what looks like Under Armour emblems and insignia that way of intersecting axes of a 9-degree, even of an Audi, or the Hurley deal about, I think they're like predominantly about the skiing and like the snow thing about the like goggles for like snow skiing. I think that's what they're predominantly known for, like on Wide World of Sports anyway. But it's the symbolic representation that I see only of involving the North American Free Trade Act, and only seeing it, I've seen it on TV as like NATO, being referred to as NATO, and seeing at the same time as NAPTO. And it's like the difference between the F and the P, and the Under Armour's representation with the intersecting axis. Likewise, once again, the Hurley deal about the snow, and my thing about Geneva, Switzerland, and beyond the yodel-hee-hoo thing, and certain factors of Geneva, Switzerland, involving the thing about the summit meetings, and quite a bit about, I've been to summit meeting in AA and American Amplified, and considerable amount more about even a song I've written, Annotated American. It's like a real cool thing about it. I have like 13 songs, and I mean, the sooner the better. I'm really getting really a little upset about and I'm trying not to act like it or sound like it or really be that, but I mean, I'm really wanting to get right on into my original music. So I kind of like stopped at like 13, and really put on a huge, big, way longer than I want to, really. So like I'd like to get on that like real quick about my 13 songs, and like really get into it, and get it going like what I'm really about anyway. So anyway, like it seemed to be the big deal about Hurley and Under Armour is the difference between NAFTA, North American Free Trade Act, and North Atlantic Treaties Organization with the P. And the difference between an F and a P is just looks like a little curve, like a C. And it seemed to be like the deal, like even like now, a Point of Grey song, when life just throws in a little curve. And I'm sure it's not limited to that, but yeah, it sounds like a Point of Grey song on the 24 set of like the Point of Grey. Yeah, some of the best female vocal harmonics, like for real, of Christianity. Not limited, but yeah, I'm not going to. Yeah, the little curve thing, huh? Yeah, that's got to be it, huh? Anyway, yeah. So anyway, yeah. So amazingly true, huh? Huh. Amazing. Anyway, so like the refrigerator period, I had to like get into the similarities, because like I was going through repeated 911 calls, ultimately originating continually every single time, congestive heart failure, and I'm going like, man, you got to be kidding me. I'm really not going for it, okay? Anyway, it's like a congestive thing, and it got to the point to where, I had to, I felt the need to like know, not just thoroughly depend on, what I was hearing, and that's not funny. So like I got into it, okay? So like I went out to the University of Texas Medical Center. It was identified as the oh god, the McNair campus, the Methodist. I think it's Methodist. I'll have to think about it, but anyway, it's like the McNair deal. And anyway, about the mesothelioma, I got tired of like getting admitted and thrown into a cardiologist situation. So I actually made an appointment. Can you believe it? And something like a retroactive future, like the anticipation that I would probably do that. I mean, for real, knowing that I would probably do that. And that's exactly what I did, like, what, 10, 15 years later? And, like, going through it and actually made an appointment at at the medical center in Houston, Texas, yeah. I think it was St. Luke's, yes. I'm actually trying to actually think of it as, I think it's St. Luke's, yeah. Uh, McNair campus, yeah. Not far from, the newer thing about the UTMB dental branch. They used to be more so in the core, like real close to like Methodist Hospital. And um, yeah, and neurosensory, yeah. I forgot what it's called, but anyway, it's like on Fannin, and on the inside, it's like inside like the normal entrance where the parking lots are, as compared to like the Fannin side. Anyway, yeah. So like anyway, yeah. Anyway, I think it's like Ross Sterling, like getting into the UP and UTMB thing, like right there off of Fannin, yeah. Yeah, going under the underpass thing there, yeah. Anyway, in any case, yeah, yay. So anyway, like the refrigerator, Mr. T and William Perry, everything was going through it with the similarities that I had to get into the deal about the heart, the conditions, and certain procedures involving, what ultimately led to a pericardium, and the similarities that would sound of the same but thoroughly different at the same time. Like a mesothelioma is like the tissue on the outer and inner layer. What would be like the inner bronchi of like actual air, what would be normally, oxygen transferring through, the bronchi into the bloodstream, and, doing what it's supposed to, like when eating food, circulating through the blood, providing nutrients throughout the entire body, like, every breath, every second of the day, of oxygen transferring through the lungs, through the bronchi. The thing with this is that with mesothelioma is that in the inner and outer layer of the bronchi, the fluids are being trapped and does not allow proper uh, absorption and transfer of like oxygen into the bloodstream. Likewise, doesn't allow dissipation that would normally be a normally bodily function, and an ungodly like non-stop cough. I mean, it's so non-stop. It's, I mean, muscles, stomach, lungs. I mean, everything getting, I mean, ridiculously tired. And I don't like using that word sore. Um, it's almost like you're really not funny, even automatically referring to like diction in a way. Seems to be a degree level, maybe of a, hey, what's the issue? Anyway, so like, I mean, coughing so much that the stomach, the kidneys, I mean, everything above the belt, even under the arms, I'm from coughing so much. I mean, non-stop for like months. Okay. In any case, yeah. So like, that presents like a real serious issue within itself, being of congestive, and then the admitting diagnosis of like a um, um, amyloidosis of an overexposure, normally associated with oncology because of chemotherapy, of infusion. Um, Normally, the chemotherapy is like an IV injection that sometimes presents whether or not the saline or a certain type, and I'm not sure if it's always that, and I'm not going to just guarantee I know what I'm talking about, involving isotopes as compared to saline, or what really saline only seems to mean sometimes involving even, optometry, or, vision, or like contacts, or a saline solution representing something of vision at the same time, yet of, I think it's a soluble base of like some type of a um, hydrogenating constant, providing sustaining duration of cleansing factors of like what saline for the eye is, okay, and moisture that way. And I think it's involving a little bit of, I'm not sure if it's would even be sodium or salt, but I think it is something, if not the exact. I'm not even going to claim that I know, but I think that's just maybe my thought, or maybe what salt really does is help a sustaining duration of like what would be used for like optometry and optics and contacts, as a duration of like moisture. Anyway, yeah. So like, in any case, yeah. So that fact alone, my mother and father both having cancer. Okay. Um, In any case, like I was getting on to the part about overexposure that's normally involving oncology or treatment and like an MRI or certain factors of CAT scans plus the chemotherapy and um, maybe isolating, specific areas that present, the deal about the overexposure actually sometimes causing, um, the immune system or even the bone marrow to cause what would be an automatic defense as an external, more so. I mean, only normally of external because of treatment or an exposure, whether it's a known or not known fact, causing an overabundant amount of like white blood cells. Yet something internal, completely different, I think is the real thing about the antigen of the immunoglobulin that's identified as an internal reaction of the immunoglobulin that causes an overabundant amount of white blood cells. And I think it's the only difference between external and internal, the difference between an external factor of overexposure as compared to an internal, being an internal issue, not an external, causing what is, I think, if my perception, based upon information, I've seen a difference of information. That's what I'm making sure is a clear thing. I want to be sure, but I'm not going to act like I really know based upon years of experience because it has been, but not academically. Um, but really looking at it and actually saying something different than it's not humorous about publications and versions that way. And that's why I'm like really letting that be a known factor, at least like when I'm looking at it, okay? And really and humorously funny in any kind of way to me, but in any case, so like as far as I'm like with my own perception, doing my own like I didn't like using that word research really, because I know in international law and international law firms, using the word research would only be like anything other than the original. Me even believing that an international law firm, even using anyone in description and position in an international law firm using the word research, I don't think you can really convince me that that ever happens at a degree level, for real. So all that search engine stuff, well, there it is, right? In any case, yeah. So like in any case, so like the thought about the antigen being a immunoglobulin reaction, as compared to what likewise in turn, even if the bone marrow is the issue, as an external, being an internal of bone marrow, then in turn, and this is the part that I'm not real sure about, if the bone marrow is actually affecting what would be only identified as an internal based upon the bone marrow reacting because of an external. And I'm not sure if the bone marrow actually is considered, an internal that affects the antigen of the immunoglobulin. I didn't go into that, and I might later if I really do want to know, but the thing with this is that when I need to know, I mean, if I need to, I guess I will. If I have any time to even feel like it, really. But anyway, yeah. So like, that was my thought and perception, because like I was with my mother for like pretty close to 2 years nonstop. I mean, day and night, with every like chemotherapy and as often as possible. Then my father for like 3 years. Yeah, my mother had it like really seriously. So it's like from the time she found out, to the time she chose hospice, and likewise my father both chose hospice and stayed right here, and it was like I was with them anyway. So like I was like with them for like really with both of them like for like a solid 5 years for real. Um, so like I picked up on some of the terminology and what was going on. Just whenever I felt like getting involved and at least talking to like the doctors and everything, and knowing, so because that's just the way I am anyway. Anyway, so like back to the Samsung refrigerator being 9.4 and the 28.2, okay, and like the Austin Powers Blue Bonnet Imperial Eagle, and the sticks of butter. Um, I thought it might have been automatic 5, but it's like for what I'm looking at it is 4. But still, it's like it's probably 5 and 6 anyway, 56 anyway, because it's like the cubic feet, but 28.2 is still a difference of 6. When 56 is, 28.5 is the 56 is 10, and it's still like a difference of like I think between like the 4 to 10 is like a difference of 6, like JD Powers. the cubic feet, like the color money and Paul Newman, the Q, huh? And then the feet being 36, FEET. Or, the absentee in backwards would be like the TEEF, the absentee. Is it really the absentee, or is it really the absent F in feet, in cubic feet? Like Paul Newman, the color money, being really the alphanumerics of 72, yet the Q stick, like the Imperial Eagle, huh? Like Austin Powers, huh? Austin Powers, Blue Bonnet, Imperial Eagle, and the 13 stars over the eagle, huh? Of Geneva, Switzerland, and yes, and the end thing, huh? In any case, yeah. So like Paul Newman, huh? The color money ultimately get to like the alphanumerics of money being 72, manure or brown. Um, I mean, world money, brown. Ultimately getting to the color code of brown being even the A1 stakes, I was saying, and what the A1 is to like ATM and Mr. T, what the absentee is to like even the OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or the Delta, or misappropriation of like the Mississippi, misappropriation allocation, normally identified as normally involving aggregates um, or huge funds that is considered the deal normally at that level on huge amounts. Not always identified, more so in politics when misappropriation allocation normally refers to presidential terms in office talking about it. Other than maybe something like Face the Nation, um, whenever they decide to talk about whatever it is they want to talk about. Um, yeah. So anyway, yeah. So I used to watch that quite a bit when I started getting a little bit serious about something. Face the Nation, yeah, because I know what that preface experience, yeah. The preface, Face the Nation, yeah. Is it the lighting? Yeah, for real, okay. So anyway, yeah. In any case, yeah. So like the 56 to 10, it's like a 94 annotated adoption abortion. Samsung now. The thing with this is that the cubic feet being 28.2 is still like 56.4. Okay. The thing with this is that really I just looked and really know now that the blue bonnet, at least the blue bonnet, 4 sticks of butter in it, is 4 sticks. Okay. And the imperial sticks of butter, I'm pretty sure it's like 4 as well. Anyway, so like the thing with this is that like the 28.2 cubic feet, that's still 56.4. But the thing with this is that really it's really 56.5. 56 is 10. Why? Well, I can tell you why, but anyway, I'll think about it because it's already going on already, like right at 48 minutes, like right now. So I don't really. Anyway, if I feel like it before I stop, I will. But anyway, so like the difference between JD Powers is like 6, okay? And Powers being like a 77, like S with S, okay? 77 and what? 96 is ultimately getting to like almost like a 96 being the thing about the high society. Another thing about what I see is like a attenuation. 96 is pretty much the integrating factor. It seems to be like it's not really identified, although it's like a on the Behringer Ultra Curve Pro DEQ 2496. I mean, it's increments of like 24, 40, going to 48, 72, and 96, and it gives the impression of like processing speed. Yet at the same time, I mean, it identifies maybe a factor of like waveform. Normally, what attenuation might only present as whether or not the waveform as compared to measuring cycles per second and oscillation, and whether if integration is the only that signals the difference of knowing or not knowing what 72 and 96 is as compared to integration of like processing speed, and what's involved with waveform as compared to speed of measuring cycles per second as compared to waveform. And I hadn't really thought about doing anything more than just knowing that the increments are in 24. But 96 is, as far as like attenuation goes, automatically electronic power thing involving, quantum, like customizing waveform beyond, like the 13-band graphic equalizer that only has, chosen selected, spectrum of bandwidth. It's normally just simply speeding up and slowing down would only be, an isolated circuit of like what bandwidth means to only tone as compared to spectrum only, how far is it going to go within that spectrum of like a frequency, measuring cycles per second of measuring cycles per second, measuring cycles per second in oscillation. And that's really all it is spectrum and bandwidth and the processing speed of, just really the oscillation of spectrum and bandwidth, not necessarily waveform, yet combined based upon the practical application and integration and all that stuff, get it into the waveform, which is like the Behringer ultra curve master, processing, DEQ 2496, and that's the thing about the 24, 48, and 72 and 96, and even 96 being like that word society normally identified. Sometimes, sometimes in James Bond movie, seemed to be the deal about something about Central Intelligence Agency and all that glamour and prestige about sometimes this even suggested as a reference to high society in a way of even some thought of like socialites in a way of not even really normally even identified with like fine arts and humanities and the deal about hey, is that invisible ink or glow in dark toilet paper, or the thing about fine arts and humanities getting to the deal about even like art link letter for real, going beyond the abstract and satire in a more presentable color coordinated pastel. Beyond the isometrics of toilet paper of actual participation. Art link letter for real and fine arts and humanities and something about the high society and the socialite deal about the thing. Hey, is that like glow in the dark? Invisible ink or glow in the dark toilet paper? Is that invisible ink or glow in the dark toilet paper like the socialite thing of like the high society yet of fine arts and humanities of going beyond the abstract satire in a more presentable color coordinated pastel. Some isometrics for actual participation of a 2D flat plane surface of isometrics of three-dimensional actual participation. Like toilet paper. And the art link letter thing in a more adequate direction, beyond, the Tidy Bow Man, okay? And Tarzan, okay? Anyway, yeah, anyway, back to like I was talking about the William Perry, I have been like really putting a lot of time just thinking about, many years of like studying all this stuff anyway. But anyway, it's like the 28.2, in my mind, it's like automatically, the 56.4, and really it's, how could it not be, the thought of like 28.5 being, 56 is 10, and that being 94, and all the connectivity of like annotated and abortion adoption and all the deal between like, why Galveston County can't use R in Galveston County because it would be like an additional 18 to 213, and telepathic brainwaves overlay Silverado, and the area code of like Los Angeles 213 would be like really here being Pearland, Texas, Brazoria, and the backside is symbolic representation, and the R really being the alphanumerics of 206 in a biblical reference, symbolic representation on the backside being the spirit of adoption of like biblical terminology and Brazoria country as compared to when R is Brazoria County or Brazoria country and some geographic attachment of the U.S. dollar in Galveston County and Los Angeles that way of alphanumerics of 213, Chevrolet Silverado Z71, Pearland, and all the way to California, the Roosevelt New Deal Act. I have put serious time into like looking at it and like thinking about so very much about what I'm talking about. And the 6 presidential terms between Theodore and Franklin Roosevelt that way are ABC 13 Houston all the way to ABC 7 in Los Angeles, a difference of 6. Of the JD being a J10 and a D4 being a difference of 6, the 6 flags, and it goes on, even, the 911, 9/11 deal about, the emergency being 95 or 1995 to 2001 based upon, information provided on World News of like, the World Trade Center. Of the World, Trade Center being the deal about, the world being 72, the color money, or even, my thought of, the later deal about, my thought of what a method of banking only it seems to be everything, the thought about, what COVID-19 is really about is, seems to be whether or not if it's just 72, just for the mere fact of a categorization of money and not really the degree of currency or a current resident in a way of any kind of experience or degree of a circuit over the categorization of money, normally even in local area network, considering whether or not if internet protocol is really, really what I'm talking about. Get all amphibious, the J. Edgar Hoover thing, like, making a grade beyond local area networks. So anyway, yeah, so like, hopefully it's getting to like all that because, even the imperial butter and the blue bonnet butter, being 4 sticks would be, what is that, the thing about the, um, hmm, yeah, anyway, I'll think about that later. But that's as far as I'm going with it right now because it's already going on like God, 55 minutes and 30 seconds right now. But I mean, it's like all that computation just based upon experience is like, seeing it and really, I mean, a refrigerator, a French door being Abraham Lincoln night vision and pi r squared, even global positioning system, a space exploration, amazingly true as it gets. Huh. Yeah. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and take a break. It's like getting real close to like 56 minutes. Yeah. Okay. So I might as well just wait, huh? Like 2 seconds. Yeah. All right. There it is. 56 minutes. Yay. All right. Anyway, I'm going to take a break. Okay.